we're both wearing running shoes.
Okay.
We're not real kettlebell people.
Shit. No, but look.
We'll get to that. Welcome and welcome back. In this video,
This one?
this one right here, we want to answer a question. Maybe two.
Maybe three.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's start with one.
Okay.
Why do I want my arm to be shorter on the snatch? And number two, what is that good for?
Okay, we can cover
Yes?
this. What kind of snatch?
Let's go hardstyle snatch,
Okay,
because we're hardstyle kettlebell coaches.
all we know how to
If
do.
you're here for this, that's what it is. So
That's all we know.
if you're looking for sport style stuff, check somewhere else.
Well, I guess we need to start with what does a shorter arm actually do? And there are a few things, but there are two big things that we want to talk about. So let's go ahead and do the little sideways demo. So let's go ahead and pretend. So let's say you're doing, let's do the long one. Let's do the long one. So let's say we do a snatch with a big, what people usually refer to as arc. So let's say this snatch has got a big arc. And we'll bend it a little bit because we don't want to make it look blatantly terrible. And then it's going to, so you see how long that is, and it's going to come up and pop. Okay, now let's look at one that would be potentially really, really short. Okay, so this is, there we go, that's the difference. So we need to preface this with the fact that different people, different body types, some people are not going to be able to do both types effectively. You're just not. Let's assume though that this is an option, and let's say you do have that option. I can do both fairly well.
Yeah, good
can
for
you do
you.
both fairly
Yeah,
well?
I've seen
Okay,
it.
so we can do both fairly well. So this is an option for us. So if you recall from just a few moments ago, if you look at the
Not rewind.
if you were to look at the path, if you were to trace the path of his arm as Jeremiah goes up with a long arm, okay, we're tracing this path here, okay, versus a shorter arm. The bell has to go a lot less distance. So imagine this. We were chatting about this before we started. Imagine he runs 400 meters and I run 300 meters, and we finish at the same time. Who's faster? He has to be faster because he's covering more distance in the same amount of time. Okay. The distance matters. How far the object actually travels matters. So even if your snatch takes the same amount of time, the shorter path is the shorter path. There's a lot less work that he needs to do. So one, there's going to be a lot less distance traveled. The total work, when you look at the physics of it, work is not defined by how hard something is, but how far something moves. So when you have a path that's out here versus a path that's here, the second path, there's a lot less work. The second idea is there's something called moment of inertia that refers to objects that are rotating. Now, this is his axis of rotation here. Now, there are many throughout the snatch, but this is the one we're isolating right now. We're talking about this arm. So the bell, his arm, they're rotating about this axis. So imagine it's going through his shoulder here. And with moment of inertia, inertia is the tendency for objects to remain in their current condition, whether they're still or they're moving. If something, the inertia in an object, if it's still, wants to keep it still. The inertia in an object, if it's moving, wants to keep it moving, and it's proportional to the amount of mass that it has. So the more mass something has, the greater inertia it has. So an object with a lot of mass, let's say Jeremiah,
I'm a lot of mass.
So his mass is going to make it harder for me to push him, right? But once he starts moving, or let's say I drop him off a building, that same mass is going to help him. Is also going to help him fall. So
That being said,
there's something different though with moment of inertia. Moment of inertia with rotation has to do with how that mass is distributed. So if we're looking at axis of rotation and then the mass in question is going to be the arm and the kettlebell, how this is distributed around that point is going to make the moment of inertia increase or decrease. So if his arm is as long as possible, the bell goes out here as far as possible. It's the maximum distance from this axis. The moment of inertia here is going to be as high as it can possibly be. We get this short, suddenly it's the same mass. We haven't changed the mass of his arm. The bell is still here, but it's a lot closer. So the distribution is different. It's closer to this point. It's going to make this a lot easier to rotate. So because there's less distance to cover, and because the moment of inertia decreases, it's going to make the bell path a lot easier. Now the question is why? Well, you got a snatch test coming up. Okay.
Boy, howdy. It seems like I always have a snatch test coming up. So if you're watching this, I probably have one. No matter when you watch it.
He does. He's going to assist, and that's one of the things you do when you assist. You do a snatch test, you retest your skills, you get better. So he's got one coming up. So this is something that you're really focusing on.
Yeah,
so
sure.
now if we go back to these reasons, now if you're doing 100 snatches in 5 minutes and you got this nice tight bell path versus someone who's got a longer arm who's working harder.
They are.
Probably, assuming, let's say your arms are the same length.
Yeah,
okay.
And they always are.
I'm talking about you and the other person.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I'm just clarifying for the people at home.
Okay. Anyway.
So I think I'm some sort of freak.
So, if you're doing a snatch with your arm way out here, you're doing more work. So if your goal is to just do 105 minutes, then keep your arm shorter. It's going to be a lot easier.
Okay.
So one, it's going to make this rotate easier. Two, you're going to have to cover less distance. You're going to get a lot less banged up likely on your arm on the way up and on the way down. So that's going to be important. Your efficiency is going to go up. When we're looking at efficiency, it's how can we keep the path as close to the body as possible.
Pretty simple.
So the snatch is the hard style swing snatch requires you to swing the bell back between your legs and then bring it up overhead. Efficiency is about how do we keep that path as small as possible. That's how you do that. We've got it. You'll learn to pull. You learn to pull early. You'll learn to pull hard. You'll learn to keep that path overhead. So the main reason is going to be efficiency. It's going to minimize some joint issues. From personal experience, since I've learned to keep my path tighter, I don't have the same wear and tear on the wrist to the elbow. I don't have these little these little issues, and it just takes a lot less energy. So
makes it more fun.
Doesn't mean that incorporating a longer arm is bad. If you want to make the snatch harder and you can do it without hurting yourself, knock yourself out. It's going to be harder. We were chatting earlier about the idea that we talk a lot when we're not on camera. We were talking about the idea that when you do the swing, the goal is always to make it as hard as possible, and the goal with the snatch is to make it as easy as possible.
Hey, I love it.
There are some reasons why we can justify it. Where we don't think it's wrong, we don't think it's bad, but there may be an instance where you want to get the arm a little longer. You want to get the arm a little longer to make it harder, but in many cases that's not it. So the real deal is going to be keeping the arc nice and tight, keeping the arm short. It's going to make your snatch test easier. It's going to allow your power to transfer from your legs better if you're working on vertical force production.
Yeah.
Okay. It just is what it is. So give that a shot. If those are your objectives, go with the short arm, and if they're not, make it longer, see what you get.
Yeah, you'll have a good time either way, I would say. And that's enough rhyming for today.
Oh, wow.
Okay, download our app if you're watching this. Obviously, we talk about it. But hey, you know what? We sell merchandise too. So go to theironrevival.com and get yourself your favorite training kettlebell shirt.
Not this one, though.
Not this one. That's yours.
That's mine.
That's yours. But you can get your own there and a few other shirts that you may like or have seen on our bodies. Anyway, shameless. Subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching and stay strong. High five.